economic activity has picked up following its severe downturn. That's according to the statement from the Federal Open Market Committee, where they nevertheless left rates at 0%. Joined now by Peter Schiff, president of Euro Pacific Capital. And Peter, is the Fed right? Is the economy improving here?
Well, no, Ben Bernanke is keeping his record of perfection intact of never getting anything right. And once again, he's gotten it wrong. First of all, spending money is not economic activity. And, if the Fed really thought that the economy was sound, why does he have it on life support? Why do we have 0% interest rates? The reality is, if he pulls the plug, our sick economy is going to die.
Right. To that point, we're going to leave these exceptional levels of the Fed funds rate for an extended period. That's what they've been saying for the last several months.
Right. The only reason that the economy is expanding, in quotes, is because money is free. But obviously money isn't free. Interest rates are too low. And the reality is, if we put interest rates anywhere near where they need to be and where they're going to be, we would bankrupt most of our financial entities and we'd have a real collapse. But unfortunately, we're never going to have a real recovery until the market lets us have a real recession.
But, okay, so go back to March. Doesn't this have to happen first before you begin to raise interest rates?
Doesn't what?
This semblance of some sort of a recovery. I mean,
No.
Can we establish it's better now than it was in March?
No, it's not better. It's worse.
It's not. It's
no,
worse.
It's worse. We are much more deeply indebted now than we were in March. We have dug ourselves into a deeper hole. The reality is we built up this phony economy over time, much like a lot of the internet stocks that you remember from the 1990s. You had all these companies that they weren't viable because they weren't making any money. They only existed because they could sell shares. So the minute reality came back into the markets, they collapsed because they weren't viable. Well, our phony consumer-based economy isn't viable because it only exists for as long as the Chinese and the Japanese lend us money to buy their stuff. But they don't want to do that anymore. And so we need to allow our economy to restructure. We have to be profitable. In order to do that, Americans have to stop spending money. Retail sales have to come down. We have to save money so we can invest in capital so that we can make things again. And the government, which is bloated and huge and a burden on the economy, needs to shrink. The real economic stimulus is cutting government spending, not increasing it.
So when are the Chinese and Japanese going to stop lending us money? Because I've been hearing about this for years. Oh, they're going to be fed up someday, and interest rates are going to go up. And here they are, incredibly low, as much money as you want.
Yeah, again, as you know, nothing will go on forever, whether it was the internet bubble or the NASDAQ bubble, and the Chinese are not going to lend us money forever. Ponzi schemes don't work. Bernie Madoff is in jail for a reason. And if you look at what's happening in China, look at the signals, look at what they're talking about, encouraging their people to buy gold. The Chinese government now is issuing RMB-denominated debt, even though they don't need to borrow money. They're in surplus. They don't need to borrow money to lend it to us. They are preparing for an exodus out of the dollar because we are destroying their monetary policy. We are exporting massive inflation to countries like China, and they understand that they have to stop. And the reality is, they're like the enablers. The sooner the Chinese stop lending money to our government, the sooner we can begin to solve our problems. Because the more treasury debt we're able to issue to foreign governments, the bigger our government grows. And the government uses that money to undermine our market-based economy and to encourage more of what's creating the problem. We need the government to stop borrowing, and the best way to do that is to get the Chinese to stop lending.
Well, to Henry's point, we're still able to borrow at long-term, for long durations, for very low rates, historically speaking. And again, in the statement today, the Fed is saying that inflation will remain subdued for some time. Where is the evidence of the inflation that you're talking about?
Inflation is already there. I mean, money supply is growing like crazy. That's inflation. Rising prices are simply a result of inflation. But, considering we've just had the biggest economic contraction since the Great Depression, why haven't prices collapsed? The reason they haven't is because of all the inflation that the government has been creating. We needed prices to fall, but the government won't let it happen, and all the inflation is there. But ultimately, inflation is not simply going to keep prices from falling. It's going to cause them to rise. But, just because we can borrow money cheaply now doesn't mean we'll be able to do it in the future. A few years ago, it was very easy for people to get teaser rates and borrow money to buy houses they couldn't afford. And all of a sudden, it came to an end. The United States government is doing the same thing. We've got the world's biggest adjustment rate mortgage. We're financing our $10 trillion plus national debt with short-term treasury bills. Interest rates can spike up very quickly. And then what are we going to do?
Any thoughts on the timing of when that happens?
When is the world going to end?
It's not the world. It's the way the world is functioning. Our phony economy is going to come to an end. Actually, the rest of the world will actually improve, especially countries like China, who have been paying or bearing a disproportionate burden of propping up our phony economy. But at some point, and I think it's going to be sometime soon, they're going to pull the plug on this. It's going to be over. We're going to have a real currency crisis, whether it happens in 2010 or 2011. You don't know for sure, but I know it's coming. And the further into the future it happens, the worse it's going to be. And when the dollar really plunges, that's going to do two things. That's going to send consumer prices through the roof, and that's going to send interest rates through the roof. And now you're going to have all the same economic problems we had before, but with huge increases in the cost of living and in the cost of interest rates. So if we think we have problems now, imagine when, not only if you lose your job, but you can't even afford to buy groceries, or even the people that still have their jobs. Whatever they earn is going to go for food and energy. There's going to be nothing left. And if we think we have a problem in the housing market now, wait until mortgage rates are in the double digits. Then where a housing price is going to be.
Peter, thanks very much.